Unturned is presented by UpdateAI.
It's so easy to start making decisions that benefit the business and not the customer. Reckoning if we are not doing things, building things, spending our money on the things that are going to help our customers, we've lost focus. And so for me, it was critical that we establish both the journey map as well as those key listening points, and that we bring that insight back into the business to guide our strategy. Everything that is preventing you from getting to your next step as a business can be found somewhere in a support ticket.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Unturned. I'm Josh Schachter, your host, and I'm here today with the Chief Customer Officer of Airtable, Cait Keohane. Cait, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so for those that, for the very, 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 very few that don't know Airtable, what is Airtable? And then I want to talk about your role, and we'll go on from there.
Perfect. Yeah. So we have hundreds of thousands of users. So hopefully Airtable is not new to many of your listeners, but for those that it is, Airtable is a no-code, low-code platform that allows teams to build the tools that run their company. So think about it as you have the simplicity of spreadsheets with the structure and power of a relational database. So you can build these powerful, flexible solutions really tailored to the way that you work.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So you've been the CCO there now for 8-9 months. And before that, you did a pretty long stint at Zendesk. I mean, you were there for over 13 years. Were you there from close to the beginning?
That's right. So scrappy pre-IPO days, I think I was employee 66.
Wow.
And when I left, we were upwards of 6,000, multibillion-dollar organization.
Okay, so forget Airtable for 1 second, because I want to focus on that. I'm on a journey of 60 to 6,000.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start, but you had a myriad of different roles there.
That's right.
I assume you started more as like an individual contributor and then kind of worked your way, graduated your way up the ranks. Is that fair to say?
It is fair to say. Yeah. I was, my first role at Zendesk was really, the task was build out a post-sales account management function from, zero to something. And so those were the early years.
And you were focused on SMB at the time, or it was enterprise, mid-market? Where were you in that regard?
Yeah. So Zendesk was so I started when we were really building off of their PLG motion. So much of their business, like their first 100 million plus, no sales team was even on the ground yet. And so, coming in and helping to build out the human touch post-sales element as we were starting to move up market and win those enterprise customers.
No sales team was on the ground when you started building out this motion?
It was like a team of 5. I think.
Wow.
Very, very lean. Yeah. Zendesk had such strong product market fit, still does. And just an incredible pull and demand. Yeah.
So what was the signal? And we'll get to Airtable, trust me, but what were the triggers and the signals that told them that they needed to bring together, larger account management?
Yeah. So, churn was not a problem, at the time, which I think is a great time to actually bring in someone focused on churn before you have a problem. Yep. We were also starting to introduce new, plans. So we were moving from just having a singular offering to a tiered model. And so having someone come in, not just to manage the relationships and drive retention, but also to think about how do we upsell and how do we cross sell into the install base, which was such a powerful lever for us as we continue to move up market.
I don't even know what question to ask next. I'm going to ask you to ask me the question to ask you. But I want to know about going from CS or account management in a company of 60 to a company of 6,000.
It was a journey.
I'm sure the size of your team mapped accordingly. What question should I ask you about that? What are your biggest lessons? What was the difference between when you started and when you ended?
What got really interesting along the way at Zendesk was really thinking about the different touch points within the journey. And so, sales was sales, and they continue to build up in line with customer growth. On the post-sales side, though, really thinking about, what role did we want an account manager to play? Was that different from customer success? How should we think about professional services or support, right? Like early days, everyone wears every hat. And so, trying to figure out that specialization was tricky. I still think in some organizations it's tricky. You want focus, you want specialization, but you don't want a customer to have 19 touch points.
Right.
on the company side. So that was an interesting journey for us, especially once you started to layer on all the acquisitions we did and the new products we were trying to bring into our install base. But those are the fun problems to solve.
Well, I mean, how did you solve those? The acquisitions is one piece, but even just the trade-offs you're talking about of, having all the different specializations, like what were some of the guiding principles that you guys put in place for making those decisions?
Yeah, it's a throwback to think about that time. But one, I think we needed to re-anchor on sales is not just going to be a one and done. They have to stay in the account for longer than just the up until the point of sale. The reason for that, again, is because so much of the business was starting to come from expansion. And so to have them completely pivot away into a sheer hunter model, it just wasn't going to work. And so what we saw happen at Zendesk was the salesperson and the AM role sort of merged into one. They were the commercial, call it the CEO of the account. Then you had customer success, which became more like the COO. So a real delineation between commercial, sales, and AM plus customer success. And then you had your technical folk, whether that be at the time someone running a services engagement, whether that be a support person, sort of the CTO. And that became the pod model that we used for many years there successfully.
You were there at a time where you saw the company go from small, growing, but still private, to public, back to private, right?
That's
to
right.
be owned. How did that impact the service delivery model and the way you guys thought about customer management?
Yeah. I mean, our founder, CEO, Mikkel Steen, who's amazing. He was very customer first. He always brought everything back to what the customer needed, what the customer wanted. And so that guided a lot of our journey through IPO and beyond. Ironically, I think some folks might, in their heads think, oh, private equity playbook, you start to shift the model a bit. Our CEO
save cost at all expense,
right.
Save costs. Yeah.
That's right. Ironically, that didn't happen. Our new CEO, Tom, who came from private equity, if anything, was even more driven towards a customer first, customer obsessed mindset. And so when he came in, it was a real, reckoning. If we are not doing things, building things, spending our money on the things that are going to help our customers, we've lost, focus. And so, different, but really in the same way, kept it customer first.
Yeah. So I imagine around a year ago or so, you started to get feelers, or somebody knocked on your door somehow, like, hey, there's this amazing role of chief customer officer at an amazing logo in the SaaS industry.
That's right.
At Airtable. Outside the logo itself, which does mean a lot, what was the most compelling thing that attracted you to join Airtable? Like, what were you most excited about coming in?
Yeah. So look, it's a different motion, growing a company from, the first 100 million to the billion versus taking it from the billion beyond. Zendesk, a lot of what I was doing was operating as a sort of systems thinker, thinking about the enterprise. And I missed the days of really getting my hands in and building and creating, which, the opportunity at Airtable allowed me to do. And so Zendesk is a tremendous company. And it would have been amazing to also spend another 13 years there. But just getting back to that build phase was really enticing for me.
Yeah. So first 3 months, let's say, your 30, 60, 90-day plan. What were those and how did they go when you joined Airtable?
Yeah. The benefit too from having come from Zendesk, where you sort of saw that full life cycle, the learnings from that and being able to bring that back in ahead of those milestones at Airtable, what an advantage. And having that pattern recognition has really served me well. And so the first thing I got in front of my team, the company, and said is, we need to make sure we have a comprehensive customer listening engine. What I mean by that is, one, are we clear and aligned on the customer journey? And two, all of those critical milestones in the journey, are we asking our customers, are we serving your needs? Would you recommend us to a friend? So, what I saw at Zendesk, and again, trying to bring that and translate that to Airtable, was it's so easy to start making decisions that benefit the business and not the customer. It's just so easy. You grow fast. You're thinking, how do we create less, operational overhead? but not being able to anchor that in truly in what the customer needs is where you start going off course. And so for me, it was critical that we establish both the journey map as well as those key listening points, and that we bring that insight back into the business to guide our strategy.
And was there anything that the team, after having done these exercises, well, first of all, actually, I would be interested in how you went about those exercises of journey mapping, like tactically speaking. And then if there were any learnings or surprises that the team was like, oh, actually, wow, glad we did this because we weren't aware of that, or this forced us to think about this in a new way.
Yeah. So for me personally, well, one, I had a tremendous team that had a bunch of really great customer insights at the ready, but I found it really important to go directly to my customers and our customers and spend time with them. Yeah. What's so interesting about Airtable, which differs a bit from Zendesk, is it's such a powerful platform that it really isn't a one size fits all. It's not a point solution. You're not serving the same buyer or the same use case. And so it was critically important for me to get in the field and understand truly where customers were enjoying the platform or where they were feeling that friction. And so we're certainly not done on the listening component. I'm learning new things every day. I was just on site last week in LA with a big customer of ours. Took away some new insights that hadn't even dawned on me. So, thinking back to your question around anything that sort of surprised us or how it influenced us. One thing that I have, with the encouragement of Howie, our CEO, at his staff meetings each week, we do a customer insight. That can be an escalation from the week. That can be a story that a customer is doing really well, whatever it might be. He wants a raw insight with a bias to action so that we as an E-team can move very quickly. And we've had two things come up. It was something that no one thought of was a problem. It was something around how we've set up our automations, our billing, our dunning cycle. And we were able to really quickly make two changes that fundamentally impacted in a positive way the customer experience. And so, this is anybody.
So this is his ELT team.
That's right.
His staff meeting. Right. And he asks, what is it? Anybody just to come with a story, or do you go kind of round robin, or how does that work?
Yeah. So I source it from within my organization, which is our support team, our professional services, our partner network, success, et cetera. And that group is the one sourcing the intel from the ground. So it's coming directly from a customer that we've recently engaged with or through a support ticket, et cetera. And I'm sharing that with the team. We dialogue it, we unpack it, and then we assign actions around it. And again, building out the journey, building out a listening program takes time, but that sort of bias for action in the meantime with his leadership team is pretty tremendous.
That's great. I'm sure there's stuff that you get that's anecdotal, and of course it's kind of one by one, but I'm sure you're being selective and intentional about what you're presenting as well to him.
Yes.
It gives you a great opportunity. I mean, talking about, literally having a seat at the table to run such a hallmark moment of that staff meeting. What you mentioned kind of as you go about and bring together the listening motion, like what are you guys doing for that right now?
Yeah. So, we use CSAT, which is, it's sort of the best we have. We do intend on rolling out NPS as well. We had a really robust NPS mechanism at Zendesk. We used Qualtrics for that, and it was really good. I intend to do something very similar here. And then we're looking for a lot of signaling in our product usage data, which we have a ton of, but really in terms of getting the customer voice back to us, we use CSAT.
I mean, I have to ask you, in my role for UpdateAI here, how are you using the voice of the customer, the literal voice of the customer, or text of the customer?
I think there's always room to improve on that front. And so I look forward to actually learning a little bit more about, having my team learn more about UpdateAI. So look, in our community, which we just recently relaunched on Gainsight, this was just months ago, we have a really great farm with which we collect customer insight, customer feedback. That used to be a bit of a black hole, and we've now created the mechanism where folks can come in and it will route directly to the product manager responsible for that part of the product, which is a huge benefit, obviously, for our customers in trying to get real-time answers.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Hey, everybody, it's Josh. Ever wonder what your team's missing in customer calls? UpdateAI doesn't just take notes. It captures the moments that matter. It auto-builds account plans, spots risk and upsell signals, and services the themes your execs actually ask for. It's what top revenue teams are using to stay ahead. Message me at josh@update.ai. I'll show you how it works.
Okay. So journey orchestration, understanding the customer journey, top priority to come in. There was something else there that was adjacent.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Maybe one more thing on that one in my first 90 days, which has served us really well. And in full transparency, it was already underway before I joined. I wish I could take full credit, but I have a really strong operational partner here. So we launched a tightened renewal forecasting and risk rally program, equally important. So it's a bit of like dealing with the day in, day out of now. So like what account is on fire or and how does our forecast look? And then building all these foundational elements, the customer listening, the journey for the future. And those two things working together is been first 90 days, first 100 days. And it's awesome.
I've never heard of risk rally program. I love that. Who came up with that?
Again, I can't take credit. We have a great strategy and ops team over here. A lot of people say red account or, customer war room, whatever it might be. We call risk rally. And it's truly that. It's a rally where, it's great.
You're all rallying around resolving the risks of your customers.
Nailed it.
Okay. So the renewal forecasting, what's the process for managing and forecasting that?
Yeah. So I spoke to this a moment ago when we were talking about early days Zendesk around sort of the role of the pod. So similarly at Airtable, the CEO or the salesperson is on the hook, not just for the new business, but for the retention of the dollars. And so they make a call, the sales leaders make a call, that rolls up through their 1LL, 2LL, et cetera. Similarly, I have a success team and a renewals team that are also doing forecasting. I expect my renewals manager to do in-quarter forecasting, meaning they own the number for the quarter. I expect my my success folks to be doing out quarter. So my CS team is looking at Q3, Q4 right now. Oh, we're off cycle. Sorry, I should make that clear. You're probably like, what year is she in? We're off cycle. So my renewals manager and the AE are triangulating on in-quarter forecast, and that my CS folks are doing Q3, Q4 out quarter. And that's where we're starting to do any of that risk rally motions to make sure that we are 2 steps ahead on the success side.
Your renewals manager and your AE are working on forecasting. They're paired up together to work on the forecasting of upcoming renewals.
In quarter.
Within the quarter is what in quarter is, or within
That's
the next?
Right. Within the quarter.
One quarter. Okay. So for all the accounts that have renewals coming up in that quarter.
Correct.
Okay. And then your CS team is focused on, is it renewals beyond the quarter or?
I'm having them go through their accounts that have a renewal in a quarter that isn't current quarter. So call it rolling 2 quarters. And they're looking at their checklist saying, do we have the exec buyer? Do we have a champion? Are we powering critical use cases? Yeah. Again, because the ideal state for me is sales and renewals walk into the next quarter with a green, healthy account, but then it's more around dollar retention, less around full account.
And it's staggered. They're always kind of staying one step ahead of the renewals and the team and the AEs. And
correct.
Right, like you said, like they're trailblazing a little bit, smoothing the pavement before they get there.
Exactly right.
Do they have a ceremony or procedure for handing off that information?
Yeah, we use Airtable to do all of our account planning, account mapping, use case mapping. And so any information they're getting is real time in Airtable and can also prompt workflows or actions or automations based on the intel that they're getting. We do a lot of, we're heavy Slack users here. That's that's a culture change that I'm not quite used to. But everything goes into Slack as well in terms of account updates and real-time comms. You need to take this, check on them, do this, etc.
Do you guys have a Slack channel for each account?
Oh, we do.
Wow. Yeah.
In the managed book, I should say, not the hundreds of thousands of users, but in the managed books, yes.
I love that. I mean, we do as well, but obviously we have a different size and scale. That's great. I highly recommend that to anybody that's listening. And using Airtable as the gold standard in that case, because I think it does help just gel the team's information sharing across each of the accounts. Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. This is great. So as you look into your current priorities, now that you're beyond 6 months, what's the biggest rock that you're pushing up the hill these days?
Yeah. I'd imagine this is the case for, all leaders right now in the current climate, but how do we continue at Airtable and beyond, how do we continue to deliver that personalized high touch experience without incurring the cost of additional full-time employees, right? Like we want to balance a good customer experience while also being financially responsible to the company.
Are you trying to keep in the words more with less?
Yes, I am, but don't, if someone on my team is listening, that's not really what I'm not suggesting you're doing more with less.
More with
yes,
the same.
There
more
you
with
go.
The same. Yes.
Yeah. And look, so it's going to be a big focus around, data, automation, AI. I'm so excited about AI, but it was clear to me how we used AI on the front end of the customer support experience, sort of less clear how we think about AI.
That was at Zendesk.
Even here, that we
Airtable.
both.
Okay.
And AI disrupted support early, right? All of the customer support bots were sort of at the forefront of the experience. Thinking about AI in the context of customer success. So how do we get our CSMs to do less of the task management and more of the focused strategic conversation? That's top of mind for me.
Can you think of like the top task management piece that you would love to have eliminated by AI for your team?
Yeah. Gosh. Well, I think most of my CSMs right now, like the summarized notes that they're getting from calls, that's all already being run through AI. Yeah. I think we do a lot of the executive business reviews where we have conversations around value and realized value over the course of the relationship. So many administrative things go into that, pulling the deck together. So, how do I pull all the insights from how they're using the product into a tailored deck? I wish all of that were just, AI driven. I can take the product data, I can take the customer business objectives, which we've captured through the life cycle, and I can blend it together in a really solid EBR deck. That would be awesome.
I do want to go back to one thing about Airtable specifically. You'd mentioned it a minute ago. The platform can do so many different things. Like you said, it's a spreadsheet with superpowers, right? And so it can appeal to so many different industries, so many different stakeholders. And it's a huge opportunity, but I can imagine for your team, that's also probably quite a challenge to be able to educate on those specific use cases that, knowing that will make them more effective in helping their customer, but you can't expect them to know the ins and outs of every verticalized niche.
It is the blessing and the curse. And maybe the one thing I didn't fully account for when I joined, was just how challenging that is. Things that we didn't have to think about at Zendesk were the role of a change manager. And what I mean by that is, as Airtable's usage expands within an organization, just helping customers think about governance and change management, that is a motion that we didn't have to think about in my old world order. And so our CSMs, really, to your point, like they've got one account could be the equivalent of 10 accounts or 20 accounts, depending on where Airtable is deployed within the organization. And so, yeah, it's tricky, really tricky.
I mean, I happen to know some former CSMs at Slack, and Slack had a couple of years ago. Slack had the tendency of hiring former consultants because they were places like Accenture, and because they were really focused on change management. They were trying to change the organization from going to being email based to being Slack based, and think about
100%.
Yeah, all the change management that entails. It's not just whatever other widget SaaS solution. I would imagine that's similar to what you guys have, right? You're trying to throw out some of the other operating systems, the Windows PC type stuff, maybe that they've known for years, and have them all, the whole organization, all different types of personas, really. And I guess it's twofold, right? Because the end users ultimately are the folks that really have to adopt it and appreciate it. That's probably why the NPS and the CSAT is so important to you. But there also has to be that appreciation and usage from the leadership and the decision makers too.
Yeah, it is a interesting, having the business owner and understanding the business outcomes they're driving, having the relationship with IT or CIO that are looking at sort of the end-to-end portfolio of technology and making sure they're very clear that this isn't a commodity solution and that real business workflows are being built on top of Airtable. And then, the folks that need to help with the operationalization of Airtable. You got a bit of a trifecta there of team members that we have to coordinate with and across for all of our large deploys. It is a challenge. One thing that I've seen that has been amazing to walk into here truly is, while, we have our challenges because the platform is so extensible, there is a huge Airtable community of these power users and these MVP builders, and it is prolific. I mean, they are on YouTube, they're in our community, and that is so powerful. I've seen, we've just recently launched an MVP program, and these folks and organizations come together and they become really our partner already embedded within the account. So we're trying to get scale through this MVP community. And really that's the motion right now.
Yeah, I remember that. I was at Boston Consulting Group, and this is about 8 or 9 years ago. And shout out to my boy, Tony Pelosi, who they called Tony the Tool Man. And he was like we were all in the product management group, and he was the tools guy. He loved geeking out on tools. And I remember he came to us 8 years ago, and he's like, "Oh, you guys got to start using Airtable," because it was very distributed. We had different pods working on different projects and stuff. And he took it upon himself to educate all the different team leaders on how they can be using Airtable. And there was resistance, of course, at first, like, "No, we're fine with Google Sheets. We're fine with this," But he, his persistence and fandom of the product is what paid off. And I'd imagine that's what you're referring to. You probably got some fanatics out there that really, truly understand the power of the product and then advocate that for others.
I think I need to get Tony the Toolman's contact info so I can send him a basket to thank him.
Yeah. Well, he's over in Singapore running startups for the sovereignty over there. So maybe hopefully he's got more of a multiplier effect now, getting all of those other startups to use it.
I love it.
Yeah, but I totally get it from that example. What else, Cait? What did I miss?
Let's see. You asked me what I would hope to, if I could look back in a year from now and say, like, what would good look like? What would, if I accomplished everything I wanted, what would that look like? I will say this. I see the role of both the CCO and the CX organization as so much bigger than just the group responsible for retention or adoption or, realizing value. I think the real power in this team, this function, this role is if we can truly bring customer insights back into the business and have that be what dictates, company strategy, product strategy, really all of the different things that we need to be doing for our customers should be coming and sourced directly from our customers. At Zendesk, when I ran the support organization, which was an amazing opportunity. If you ever have the chance to run a customer support team, you should do it. It is the closest I've ever felt to customers. It is so insightful. It's a highly strategic and operational role. Everything that is preventing you from getting to your next step as a business can be found somewhere in a support ticket. I believe that fundamentally. And so finding a way to really funnel that back into the business, you're just it's a force multiplier. So, I hope to be that person here at Airtable and my team to be those people collecting that insight and bringing it back to the business.
There we go. I love it. Cait, thank you so much for being on the program. Good luck for the rest of the year. You've got a great opportunity there in your hand. You know that, and wish you guys all the very best.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.